Hey everybody, welcome. It's my first ever live stream, so can you let me know if you can hear me okay? Can you hear the piano? Everything look and sound good? Hey David, thank you. I appreciate it very much. If y'all haven't checked it out, check out Home Recording Made Easy. It's a great resource for audio engineering and things like that. So thank you, David. Can everybody hear? Good? Okay, I got some thumbs up, so looks like we're okay. So welcome to my webinar. This webinar is, the goal of it is to maybe help you get some foundational things in terms of okay, great, everybody can hear it. Welcome everybody, thank you. But before I get into the what we're gonna do, a couple housekeeping items. First is, like I said, this is my first webinar, so I think I've got everything dialed in. We'll see how it goes. You know, the first time you just gotta jump into the fire, but I think I've got a handle on everything I need. Please leave comments if you have questions. We'll definitely do some question and answer at the end. I may even try to answer them as I go. But maybe leave some questions, and I'm going to probably go back and look at them, and we'll see what we can do. Other thing is, if you're at the piano, that would be great. If you want to try to do some of this along with me, that's fantastic. If not, no big deal. This is going to be kind of an overview of some general ideas that I think are very important, and I think if you follow these ideas, they will certainly build a really great foundation for becoming just more comfortable playing the piano. So it's also a webinar to talk about my new course, which is coming out. It's out now, called 251 Voicing Mastery. So this is kind of an overview of some concepts that are in that course that I think if you dig into them, it will really help with some things that might be maybe some loose gaps or some holes. So that's kind of what we're going to try to do. So why name this webinar Play Jazz Piano Voicings with Confidence? Well, the whole point of the confidence part of it is I've had students for 25 years now. It's a common theme. It's frustration, and it's kind of a lack of confidence, and through that is frustration. And the frustration is I can't seem to, one, think fast enough as chords are going by. I can't seem to connect one chord to the next, and it feels like I'm always just like barely holding on. So the first part of this webinar is going to be some real general music theory stuff, and the first question I ask these students is, do you know your key signatures? Which is a pretty basic foundational thing. And the answer a lot of the time is, well, yeah, of course I know my key signatures. So I'll be like, okay, great. Play me a C major scale. And they got it. They got it down cold. I'm like, okay, great. Now, play it in E major. And sometimes they can do it, and sometimes it's like all of a sudden like, oh wait, I don't quite have that as down as I could. So they realize right away that they don't know their keys very well. And I want to say this at the beginning. Knowing your keys is so important. If you don't know your key signatures, a lot of things aren't going to make sense. So that's where we're going to start today. Before we do that, though, I'm going to give you some ideas of what we'll be doing. So what I want to try to get to today, again, it's going to be kind of an overview because we don't have a ton of time. But what I'm going to try to do is at least give you a rundown of these topics: key signatures, circle of fourths, circle of fifths, root movement, 2-5-1s and root position. Talk about what 2-5-1s are. 2-5-1s and thirds and sevenths, how to add notes to thirds and sevenths, and then we'll talk about drop 2 in 2 hands. If you focused on these things, you will really skyrocket your playing. but it's got to start at the foundation. And the one other point I'd like to make is some of this stuff you may know. You may be fine. You may say, I know about root position seventh chords. I would encourage you to stick with me because we're gonna keep moving into other territory as we go. Okay, so again, and the other thing too is because of time, I'm not gonna do things in all keys. I'm mostly gonna stay just in C for the webinar, but I do want to talk about maybe a couple different keys within the key signatures in the circle of fourths. So let's just really quickly make sure everybody is totally cool with key signatures. Where are we at here? There we go. There we go. Oh yeah, sorry. Before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about chord symbols. There's different ways of labeling chord symbols. And just for the sake of this, how you see chord symbols with me, major 7 chords, I use a triangle. Minor 7, I use Mi7. Dominant's just a 7. Also, I have the handwriting of a 4th grader, so I apologize. Half diminished, which we won't really get to today, is either that or minor 7 flat 5, and then diminished is the circle. But we're really just going to be focusing on major 7, minor 7, and dominant today, okay? So, there we go. There we go. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So let's talk quickly now about key signatures and the importance of the circle of fifths or the circle of fourths. Us jazz musicians a lot of times refer to this as the circle of fourths because the root movement that we see in a lot of tunes, it visually it's sometimes easier to see it as fourths, at least for me. This can be debated, so I call it the circle of fourths and the circle of fifths. Because if you go clockwise on the circle, it goes by fifths. If you go counterclockwise, it goes by fourths. And if you notice on this side of the circle, these are sharp keys. These are all sharp keys on this side. And over here we have flat keys. The sharp keys move by fifths. The flat keys move by fourths. So that's why it's important to know it both ways. And this also helps when you're trying to figure out key signatures. Now in the course, I go through every key. I show you how to find every key and its relative minor in total detail. So although this is kind of an overview, in the course, we go through everything, very detailed, one by one, and I don't go on until I make sure that you really have it down. But just to get a general idea of how the circle works, if we're going to do sharp keys, like if we're in the key of C, we have no sharps and flats. The reason why this is so important is because the key signature is going to dictate how harmony sounds in that key. It's also going to help you find chords in that key, find seventh chords, find triads, whatever it may be, all dictated by the key signature. So we're in the key of C. That's the first place in the circle. If we go to G, you'll notice there's an F sharp on the key signature, okay? And sharp keys are real easy in terms of how to figure out the key signature. I'm only going to do G and maybe D just so you can see it, but if we go to G and I just did this, all white keys, no sharps or flats, we're still in the key of C because the key of C has no sharps or flats. The key of G has one sharp, F sharp. And the way you find sharps in a sharp key is you just move down, you just add the sharp a half step below the root. So in the key of G, F sharp is the sharp a half step below the root. So that's our key signature. That's F sharp, key of G. If we went to the key of D, if I did only one sharp in the key of D, that F sharp, we're not in the key of D yet. The next sharp I would add, again, is a half step below the root, which is C sharp. So now we have F sharp and C sharp. If we play those, we get the key of D. The seventh of a major key is always a half step below the root. Okay? This really isn't a webinar about theory, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But if we go to F and just play F with no sharps or flats, okay? We're here. F has one flat, B flat. Now, if you look at this, the flat being added is a half step above the third of the key, and it's the fourth degree of the scale. So the flat keys move by fourths, and each flat that gets added is a fourth above the root. I'm going to cover all this in the course, but I just at least wanted to show that key signatures are so important, because now if we go back to the key of C, I don't like necessarily calling this a scale. I like calling it a key, because, I mean, this can be the key of C. This can be the key of C. This is all the key of C. If I start changing notes, well, now I'm in a different key. I'm just playing C on the root note. But all of these notes are in the key of C. That is the sound of C major, rather than just... So try to think of the notes as the key, not just the scale. Okay, so we're going to focus this around the 2-5-1 progression, which I will get into detail in a second. But before we do that, this is why keys are so important. I'm sure many of you have looked at lead sheets of tunes or looked at a chord chart, and you see, D minor 7, A minor 7, G7, F major 7, C major 7, and they're all coming from, they have to come from something. And sometimes it can seem like, where are all these, how are these things related? Well, they're related by keys. So if we're in the key of C, this key signature can give us 7 chords. And I'm only going to deal in 7th chords now because we're in jazz land, so we do 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay? So, oh, my scribbles. Let me delete my scribbles. There we go. There we go. This pencil thing's cool, but I'm still getting used to it. But I think it's beneficial to have it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's annoying. I don't know. But there we go. Okay. These are what we call diatonic 7th chords. We're going to go through the 7 of them, and then I'm going to isolate them for the 2-5-1 progression. I should also say, why focus just on the 2-5-1 progression? Why is the course called 2-5-1 Voicing Mastery? Because the 2-5-1 is such a common progression in this music. By using it as a vehicle, so to speak, to work on a whole bunch of harmonic concepts without worrying about a lot of tunes and a lot of other things, it's all within the confines of the progression in major and in minor. You can really learn a lot about voice leading, how to add notes to chords, how things move in keys. So you really get to know keys really well. And this is the starting point. So if we're in the key of C, or any key, this is for any major key, say this with me. 1 and 4 are major 7. 2, 3, and 6 is minor 7. 5 is dominant. 7 is half diminished. And if you've seen, I've had YouTube videos, if some of you subscribe, you've heard this probably before. There's a reason I'm repeating it. 1 and 4 is major 7. 2, 3, and 6 is minor 7. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 5 is always dominant, and 7 is half diminished. Altogether, we have 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 minor 7, 5 dominant, 6 minor 7, 7 half diminished, 1 major 7. I mean, you've heard this. That's all just diatonic chords. Major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant, 6 minor 7, 7 half diminished, 1 major 7. So, the 2-5-1 progression, why is it so important and so still such a part of this music? Well, it's a very rooted progression in the key, and it can get us from one key to the next when we're moving around different keys. The 5 chord is what gets us around. It's the dominant. Barry Harris has said the dominant is the most important chord. If we're in C, there's our 5 chord. It's all dictated by the key signature. 5-1 is the most common resolution in all of music, not just jazz. I mean, how many Mozart or Beethoven or classical era symphonies ended with 5-1, 5-1, 5? If they ended on that, they probably would have gotten the guillotine or something. I don't know. So you got to resolve it to 1. The only reason we bring the 2 into the picture is it adds more interest. 2 minor 7, 5 dominant, 1 major 7. It already sounds hip just with root position 7th chords. 2 minor 7, 5 dominant, 1 major 7. So by isolating these, this is what we get. This is our 2-5-1 in the key of C, just with root position 7th chords. Okay? What I would recommend you do, and we do it in the chorus, which I'll get to a little later, is every single key. Do this in every key. I'll take it through a few keys in the circle. I'm going to go to the key of F. Key of B flat. I'll slow down a little bit too. I'm going a little fast. Key of G. How about one more? Let's do a random one. Key of D flat. So that's the first step. Make sure that you can do this in every key. The thing is, you're not going to play a gig and play that. That's not the point. There's a difference between practicing and playing. This is practicing. This is building blocks that are so foundational and important. I've been playing for almost 30 years. I still do this from time to time. It's just always good to revisit it. It's kind of a litmus test. Okay, how am I doing today? It makes me it makes sure that I'm paying attention to what keys need work and things like that. So this never ends. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay? So the next step now is where we're going to get into the kind of the meat and potatoes of how we can build harmony. I'm going to stay just within the 2-5-1 from now on and C, just so you can see how we progress from this to some other stuff. As some of you know, actually the most popular YouTube video I've made is about thirds and sevenths. So it's obviously something people really want to know about. The reason for it is it's kind of the backbone for all great jazz harmony, really. In terms of a certain sect, I mean, there's a whole other set of things you can do, but underneath a lot of complex harmony is still root, third, and seventh. So if we go back to C, all right, If we take away a few notes here, let's talk about really quick why the third and seventh are so important. If I just played root, third, and fifth of this, no, let's do this, sorry, C major. If I played just G, root, the root C, the fifth G, and the B major 7. What kind of seventh chord is that? I mean, it kind of sounds like it could be major, but it could be minor. We don't know because there's no third in the chord. But if I did this, root, third, seventh, to major third and a major seventh, I know that that's a major 7 chord. If I do this, root, third, fifth, what kind of minor chord, what kind of seventh chord is that? Is it a minor 7th? Is it minor major 7? We don't know because there's no 7th in the chord. But if we do root, third, 7th, we know that that is a minor with a major 7. If I did this, root, fifth, flat 7, what kind of 7th chord is that? Well, we don't know because there's no third, so it could be minor 7 or dominant 7. But if we add in the third and 7th, we get a dominant 7th chord. So thirds and 7ths are so important because major 7th, they define the chord, 3 and 7. Dominant 7th, third and a flat 7, they define the chord. Minor 7, minor third, flat 7, they define the chord. All of these things are defined by the third and 7th. In the course, I go through every chord quality through the keys, every inversion of thirds and 7th. We go through each one to make sure that you have a really solid foundation. Moving on now, in terms of a 2-5-1, let's go back to root position 7th chord. 2 minor 7, 5 dominant 7, 1 major 7. Get to that in a minute. I'm going to go down the octave. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to play these. This is called parallel voice movement, meaning the same voicing structure is moving this way. Johann Sebastian Bach would not be happy with me, but it's a means to an end, so bear with me. Okay? We're going to get rid of the root and get rid of the fifth, so all we have is bass note in the left hand, third in the right hand, 7th in the right hand. Now, a 2-5-1 in a major key is a minor 7 on the 2 chord, a dominant 7 on the 5, a major 7 in the 1. When we play the 2 chord in a key, the 7th is the key that we're in. See that? 2 minor 7 is the 2 of the key of D. The C is the 7th, and that's the key that we're in. So that's how that sounds parallel. I'm not going to really spend more than a minute on this because it's not really what I want to talk about. What I do want to talk about, though, is how do we do different inversions of chords. This is just a bass note. What I'm playing up here is a voicing. So however many notes there are of a voicing, we can invert it. So here we have root from bottom to top, third, 7th, D minor 7, root from bottom to top, G7, root from bottom to top, third and 7th of C major 7. Root third 7th, root third 7th, root third 7th. The voicing I'm playing is third 7th, third 7th, third 7th. Since there are 2 notes in this chord, not including the bass note, it's just so you can hear the harmony, we can invert this one other way. We're going to take, all an inversion is you take the bottom note and you move it up the octave. So now we have root 7th, 3rd. It's the same two notes, but it's just inverted. Okay? This is root 3rd, 7th, root 3rd, 7th, root 3rd, 7th, root 7th, 3rd, root 7th, 3rd, root 7th, 3rd. D minor 7, G7, C major 7. But that's not what I want to get into. So we're gonna dive in now to kind of the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about. This is going to be how you can start playing voicings with confidence. It's got to start with thirds and sevenths. It's so important. I really could just probably spend this whole time just talking about third and sevenths. We'll go through every key, but I do that in the course. We deal with this in every single possible permutation and inversion. But the thing that's so powerful about thirds and sevenths is something we call voice leading. All voice leading is, really, it's kind of, I don't know if it's like textbook definition, but it's how I view it, it is moving the least amount of notes that necessary to get you from one chord to the next. So chord symbols are like this. They're vertical. D minor 7, G7, C major 7. That's how I've always viewed it. It's kind of like this grid. But then the notes between the chords should move horizontal. And good voice leading, it kind of looks like it's almost like two snakes moving together rather than moving all over the place. This is not good voice leading. What I just did here, that's not good voice leading. In fact, if you took college music theory, the first thing they'll tell you is parallel movement is kind of a no-no, especially parallel fourths and fifths, which is what we deal with a lot, and tritones. So now let's talk about this. So how do we achieve good voice leading? This is a formula. It's okay to know formulas. But this formula applies outside of the 2-5-1 as well. It's really just moving notes by whole or half step between chords. And the circle of fourths and fifths movement is so geared towards that, it works perfectly. That's why it's such an important part of what we do. That's why knowing the circle and knowing the keys is so important. So if we go back to C, if we go to D minor 7, remember the key signature dictates the chord, so this is the 2 chord. There's our 3rd, there's our 7th. To achieve good voice leading, to go to the 5 of any 2-5-1, remember this rule. The 7th is the only note that moves. Say it or write it out down, or it's in the course, I promise. The 7th is the only note that moves, and the 7th moves down a half step. The 3rd of all of these chords does not move. The 3rd will stay the same and become the 7th of the next chord. And I'll show you this, and I'm going to get out my pencil and I'll show you. But I'm going to play it. There's root, 3rd, 7th. What did I just say now? The 7th is the only note that moves, and it moves down a half step when you move to the next chord. So D minor 7, we're going to go to G7. The 7th is the only note that moves. That F stayed the same. And the 7th of D went down a half step, and it became the 3rd of G. So if you see this here, so the 7th, let me see the best way to do this. So 7th, that's the top note, and the 3rd is that bottom note. This note moves down a half step. This note does not move. And then what happens is when you move through the progression, 3rds and 7ths flip. So that 7th of D minor 7 moves down a half step, and becomes the third of G. And now we have root 7th third. D minor 7, G7. So now, what did I say? Just keep getting this in your head, keep ingraining it. The 7th moves down a half step, becomes the third of the next chord. So if I just did the 7th movement, D minor 7, there's your 7th, it moved down. There's your 7th of G7, it moves down, becomes the third. So only one note moves. So if you look at this G7 here, this is the 7th, and it moved down a half step and became the third again. The third stayed the same to become the 7th. So 7th moves down a half step, third stays the same for each chord. Remember that in your head. This applies to even when you're doing the same chord quality through the circle of force, let's say. But in terms of the 2-5-1, 7th moves down a half step, 7th moves down a half step. It already sounds nice. This is also, you've heard the term shell voicings. This is the basis for shell voicings in left hand. If you get this together, this is a great way to accompany yourself. I'm only doing root 3rd, 7th in my left hand. That's probably not transcription worthy, but you get the point. Now, the rule still applies when we talk about reversing it. Because remember, for every amount of notes in a chord, there's an inversion. So here we had, so the third is either going to be on the bottom of the voicing or the 7th. So if we do the inversion, now the 7th is on the bottom of that 2 chord. And we can kind of use that as the basis of a new set of inversions. But the rule is still the same. First of all, the 7th of the 2 chord is the key that we're in. And the 7th is the only note that moves. And the third stays the same to become the 7th of the next chord. Seventh of G7 moves down a half step. You can even see it on the chart. If you look at the top note, it's staying the same, and then it slithers down. And then the 7th of that 2 chord, you can see it slither down and then stay the same when it goes to C. If you get this automatic, it's going to make so many things make sense. Because when we start talking about adding notes makes a lot more sense when you can understand thirds and sevenths. Like, don't get me wrong, like learning voicings is really great. Getting a good arsenal of voicings, 4 or 5 note voicings, all that's really great stuff. If I check this to, this is okay. I'll go in this key of C. I'll stay in C. That's a 2-5-1, nice thick voicings. But inside of that is just this. If that's not in there, none of this really matters. If I play, I'm sure some of you have heard what we call the so what voicing. It's a pentatonic voicing. If C major, it would be 3, 6, 9, 5, 7. Great voicing. I love it. But what's in it? It's got to be in there. 3rd and 7th are in there. If we take those out, it's a cool voicing. Sure, I love that voicing, but you put these back in, you get the color of the chord. I mean, if I go, it's still in there. You get what I mean? If I do minor, not minor 9 or something, it's still in there. So it's so important. So root 3rd 7th. Let's go back and just take one more look at it. Root 7th 3rd. So that's the first step. In the course, we will go through every single key. Actually, I'll show you in a few minutes, but I have something in the course called Shed With Me, which I think is the real exciting part of the course for me. It was that's actually why there's so many videos in the course. There's like 60 videos. It's because every lesson I do something called Shed With Me, where I actually practice the lesson in every key with a metronome, and I guide you along. I count you in. You can slow it down and speed it up in the course video player. I also have audio that I exported. So you can export audio of the Shed With Me sections if you want to put them in a slowdown software or into your DAW or whatever it may be. But every topic, I have put a video of me practicing it at a slow tempo with a metronome that you can practice right along with me. So like these 3rds and 7ths, we do them in every key, and I have 3 practice progressions where we go down by key by whole step, down by key by half step, and then we go through the circle of fourths by key. So if we were I start on the key of A in the course because we talk about not getting too muddy. So I'll show you. Like if we went down by half step in the key of A, we would be doing this. Did I say half step? Let's do whole step. Down by key by whole step. 2 5 1 in the key of A. B minor 7, G D E7, A major 7. Then we go to the key of G, and A becomes 2 minor 7 of G, 5 7 of G, G major. Key of F, key of E flat, key of D flat, and we go through all of them that way. Then we go down by half step. Key of A flat, key of G, key of D, G flat, and then we go through a circle of fourths by key. Key of A, key of D, key of G. We do that in every key, every topic. We do that in every key. That's the part I'm really excited about, because I think that's really where the rubber's going to meet the road for you. It's one thing just to learn the concept, but to just be kind of thrown to the wolves and say good luck, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to kind of be in this journey with you. So I think that's a really cool part of the course is having those practice videos, the Shed With Me videos. Okay, let me check comments. I haven't really even looked. What do we got here? Okay. Any questions? Write down any questions y'all got. Let me know if you got anything. Am I going too fast? I'm probably going too fast. But let me know if you got any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. I'll check back on that. But I'm going to just keep going. So we don't just stop at 3rds and 7ths. We have to learn how to add notes. And how do we add notes? Well, we add them with extensions. What is an extension? It's very simple. It's a note that gets added above the 7th. What we call extensions, some people call them tensions. Some of the older school musicians call them tensions. And really because it adds tension to a sound. It adds color. The extension definition I like because really what it means, it's notes that extend above the octave. Let me show you. So if we're on a C major 7 chord, okay, 1, 3, 5, 7. If you also notice, this is every other note of the scale. If we keep doing that, we get 3 extensions, the most common extensions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the octave. There's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 11, 13. These are our most common color notes. We do have 15, 17, 19, 21. That can get really crazy harmony, because if we go, with a sharp 15, flat 17, it can get real, kind of like Penderecki or whatever. But let's just deal with 9, 11, 13. We're only going to really deal with 9 and 13. Okay? 9, 11, 13. The reason we call them extensions, if we have a 7th chord, the chord has to have a 7th in it in order to have a 9, 11, or 13. The other thing you should notice is 9 is the same note as 2, 11 is the same note as 4, 13 is the same note as 6. If we go down the octave, it gives us our major scale. So it's really just a major scale being spread out by thirds. These notes are what can start adding interest to chords. You can have a sharp 11. The dominant chord is the most alterable, so I'm just going to do C7. You can have a flat 9. You can have a sharp 9. You can have a sharp 11. You can have a natural 13. Flat 13. All these possible combinations, it's all just based on moving these notes up or down by a half step. Flat 9, sharp 9. I'm not really going to get deep into alterations right now, although I do in the course. My little infomercial. But I want to just show you how we can add these extensions and added notes to make the 3rd and 7th more interesting. And then I think I'm going to wrap it up after that, just because of time, and I want to get people's questions. There's 2 concepts that I want to talk to you about. So I'm going to go back to this. It's a concept of 5-9-5 and 9-13-9. What that means is it's a series of added notes to the 3rd and 7th. And the three letters indicate the notes that change when we go from 2, 5 to 1. So 5 on the 2 chord, 9 on the 5 chord, back to 5 on the 1 chord. So check this out. We've got that established as our good voice leading with root 7 3rd, root 3rd 7th, root 7 3rd. So if we want to keep the 7th or the 3rd on the bottom of each voicing, we can only add a note above it for this one. So if we want to add a 5th to this, we got to keep the 7th on the bottom. And don't get me wrong, you can add something below it. For the sake of what we're doing though, I want you to get used to seeing the 3rd on the bottom of a voicing and the 7th on the bottom of a voicing. We can always add more later, but I'm always a big believer of, kind of one thing at a time here, okay? So either the 3rd's going to be on the bottom of the voicing or the 7th. All added notes are above that. So, root 7th 3rd. The 5th of D minor 7 is A. So there's our 5. We're going to add these notes to the major 7 chord and the minor 7 chord. We're going to add 5 and 9. On the dominant 7th chord, we're going to add 9 and 13, which I'll talk about in a second. Why not add just the 5 to the dominant chord? The 13 just sounds better, I think. It adds more color. It also gives more possibilities of alterations. So, 7th, 3rd, 5th. I just talked about that root movement of, not root movement, but note movement of 5, 9, 5. So there's our 5. Keep these other voice leading rules in mind that we just talked about. We're going to keep this note the same. It's going to become the 9th of G7. I think I have a slide on this. I can't really remember. Yes. So the 5, here's the 5 of D7, D minor 7. It's going to become the 9 of G7, or now G9, because we have when you have the 9 in the melody, you can still call it G7, but I'm just calling it literally the 9 because the 9 is in the voicing. And then we go back to 5. So you see 5, 9, 5. 5 of D minor 7 doesn't move and becomes the 9 of G7. And then there's your 5 of C major 7. We're already getting some more color here. Here's the inversion now. I'll just keep that number right there. Good. So here is what we're trying to do also is we're trying to keep the voicings close together. These are called, they're going to lead to what we call four-way close voicings. So we don't, I mean, we could spread it up there, but we want to keep these notes together. So we've already established we want to keep the 3rd on the bottom and the 7th on the bottom. So here's our 3rd, there's our 7th. If we're going to do 5, 9, 5 on a 2, 5, 1, where could the 5 go? The 5th, I should say the 5th. It's the 5th note. It's not the 5 chord. Sorry, that can be confusing. The 3rd and the 7th, where does the 5th go? Well, it goes right there. So it goes inside the voicing. But everything changes. Nothing changes. The 7th is the only note that moves. The 5 stays the same and becomes the 9. And then it goes down and becomes the 5th of C major. 5, 9, 5. Inversion. With the 3rd on the bottom of the 2 chord. Now, just to give a cool example, if I decided to flat the A, this would become G7 flat 9. It's still 5, 9, 5, but I'm just flatting it. I'm altering the 5 chord. That's some really nice movement. It's all beautiful voice leading. That's what I'm trying to show you here. Is this voice leading is just it can be applied to everything, but the 2-5-1 is such a great place to start or solidify because it's just so common in what we do. Okay, so that was 5-9-5. I'm going to do 9-13-9, and then I want to answer some questions, and I want to show you the course too. So where are we at here? There we go. This eraser thing, it's not quite working the way I wanted it to. Oh, there we go. That's what I wanted. It's pretty amazing what we can do now. I'm in my basement doing all this. It kind of blows my mind, to be honest with you. Now we're going to do what we call 9-13-9. I'm going to stay where we were. So on the 1 chord and the 2 chord, we're adding 5 and we're adding 9. On the 5 chord, we're adding 9 and 13. So really the only difference is the 13 on the 5 chord. So there's our root 3rd 7th. 3rd's on the bottom. We have to keep that on the bottom. So we're going to add a 9 to add that color. That's where our 9 can go. Remember, 9 is the same as 2. It's a whole step above the root of the chord. So there's 9. 9, 13, 9. It's the same idea as 5, 9, 5. 9 becomes the 13 of G7 and then moves back and becomes the 9 of C major. 9, 13, 9. If we invert it, 7th on the bottom of the 2 chord. 9. This is like it's like a little more crunchy. Same rule though. 9 stays the same and becomes a 13. 7th is the only note that moves. There's our G13. 9, 13, 9. If I took this, I could flat the 13. Now if I combine them together, I did show this. So really quick, let me just, if we're playing G7, the 5 chord is the chord that can be altered the most because the 5 can take us to new keys. It has the most scale choices, the most color choices. So we can, oh, hey, Sam, I'll get to that in a second, okay? Sorry. Yeah, okay. I got you, Sam. Just give me a second here. The 5 is the most alterable chord because it has the most vocabulary choices. It's also the most powerful chord in a way because it can move us to different key centers. So if we're dealing with the 9, we can either have a natural 9. Come on, there you go. Okay, I'm going to have to get that eraser a little better. All right. We can have our natural 9 here. We can flat the 9. Or we can sharp the 9. Those are our 3 choices. Natural, flat, sharp. If I invert it just so you can hear it more spread out, there's our 13. We can also flat the 13. Now where this gets interesting is we can start combining notes together. This is now basically adding 5 and 9 to each voicing, 9 and 13 to the 5, and 5 and 9 to the 1. So now we would have, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, like some piano books will refer to them as like the A and B voicings. But this is how they're built. 3, 7, 5, 9. Everything stays the same when we go to the 5 chord. Only the 7th moves. 3, 5, 7, 9, 7, 9, 3, 13, 3, 5, 7, 9. If I were to do some alterations on the 5, I'll do a G7 flat 9 flat 13. So all of this stuff in the course, we go through all of this, how to build it. I take you through each extension and each added note. We go through the circle of every chord quality through the circle with these added notes, one at a time. Again, I really wanted to take my time and do one concept at a time with you and practice them with you. So I'm gonna get to some questions in a minute. But if I took this up the octave and just did that, we can take this into 2 hands in something we call drop 2. I actually just did a video about this on YouTube. So there's my D minor 9 voicing. All drop 2 means this is called a 4-way close voicing. It means that the 4 notes are within an octave. They're playing the voicings of a chord within the octave. It doesn't spread out. You take the second to top note and you move it down the octave. That's called drop 2. You add a little root in your left hand, you got this nice spread out voicing. This is the last part of the course that we get into. We do all this stuff in drop 2. Same rule applies. There's your 7th. It's the only note that moves. There's our 7th. For some folks, this may be like, what? I don't really get this one. And I'm going quick on this. But with a little more time, it may make sense. I just wanted to show you the sound. Really, okay, so I know that was fast. That's kind of a lot of stuff, but I just wanted to show you that all came from this. So you go from this to this. And that's what the course is all about. It's getting you from root position 7th chords to thirds and 7ths, to adding notes, to being able to play them in both hands. And we go step by step. Before I answer some questions, I actually just wanted to kind of just show you, I didn't even use that one, show you the course. This is what the course would look like. Again, it's called 251 Voicing Mastery. It's available for the next 5 or so days for 50% off. Just use the coupon WJL50. And it's available at half price for the next week, basically, 5 days. We've got 4 modules, and I'm just going to show you kind of how it works out here. The first module is getting started. It's just a course introduction. In each module, there's a video, kind of a description, and then any downloads are on this side. You can download each video to have it with you on your computer or your phone. Oh, this also, it doesn't play video the way it's set up right now. So, but let me get into one of the modules. You got your breadcrumbs here. You can just go back. Let's do the adding notes to 3rd and 7th. So each module is the main topic, and then there's an overview, and in the overview, I'll kind of explain what we're going to be doing and where we've been. And then in here, you've got your PDFs. And if you click the link below on the enroll button below, there's a landing page. It'll tell you all about what's in the course, but there's a over 240 page PDF booklet of every example of the Shed With Me and some of the lesson stuff. It's all there. And then here you see Shed With Me audio files for module 3. Okay. There we go. So if you look at lesson 1 here, they're broken up by lesson. And then within that, I have the videos and the topics. So lesson 1, the first lesson is always the concept that we're going to talk about. And then if you look at this. These are the Shed With Me video. Tonic major chords with added notes. Tonic minor chords with added notes. Minor 7 chords with added notes. Half diminished chords with added notes. Dominant 7th chords with added notes, not altered. Dominant 7th chord with added notes, altered. And then when it's when it's relevant, there's a quiz at the end of each lesson to kind of test your knowledge a little bit. I won't do the quiz right now. I don't want to get it wrong in front of everybody. But that's kind of the vibe. Here's two-handed voicings. There's an introduction to drop 2. And then look at this. These are all the chords we just did with the added notes now in drop 2. Now we have 2 5-1s in major in drop 2. Major 2 5-1s with the 5-13 flat 9, 5-13 sharp 9, 5-9 flat 13, 5-7 flat 9 flat 13, 5-7 sharp 9 flat 13. Every alteration possible in every key. This is me doing them with you. All right? So that's how we're laid out here. There's 4 modules, but within each module, you can tell the Shed With Me stuff, it's really the meat and potatoes of the course, because teaching the concept, sometimes I feel like we spend too much time teaching the concept and not enough time playing. So the actual lessons are the shorter part of the course, because it's going to really happen when you start playing it. So that's the course. You can hit that button below, and I'd love you to try it out. I think it could be really beneficial. Now let me look and see what kind of questions we got here. Hey Sam, okay. So here's the here. Let me look here. So the question is, do you add concept? How to add concept to standards? Do you suggest standards to apply the concepts to? I don't deal with tunes specifically in the course. The reason for that is I wanted to isolate this within the progression. I'm actually working on, my next course is going to be a jazz harmony course, kind of a compendium to this, where we're going to get into applying things to tunes. But I really believe isolating things one thing at a time is really beneficial. I almost see some of these things, the beauty of these courses is you can go at your own pace. You could take one thing and just spend time on that one thing. So I would actually be happy to add some tunes. Maybe I'll actually do that. Just a list of some tunes that you could apply this to. Tune Up is a great one. Autumn Leaves is a great one. Of course, I'm sitting here trying to think of tunes. I'm not gonna be able to think of any. I'm the guy at a gig that'll be like, "What do you want to play?" And I'll be like, "I know like over hundreds of tunes, but I can't think of one right now." So let's just say for now, Tune Up and Autumn Leaves, but that could be more. I'll happily put a little list together. But the point of the course, though, is just to isolate it within this progression. We're using the progression as a way to understand the mechanics of how notes move between chords. The thing is, though, is this will come into your playing. Like if I go, I play that when I accompany people. That's all stemming from if I'm using the concepts of this course to do what I just did. So there isn't a tune component to this. It's specifically using the progression to really learn the mechanics of 2-5-1s. I hope that makes sense. Well, I think I've been rambling on long enough. Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah, Henry, visually, yeah, it does make sense. Stevie F20. I'm going to start coming on live more. This is the first time I've ever done this, so I hope it was okay. But I will definitely do more live videos as I keep dialing in this setup. But because I like this. I like having interactions. And what I think I might do is I've been thinking about going live when I'm working on tunes, and I can kind of show people how I practice, and that can maybe give some ideas of how you could practice. Thanks, Noel. Great instructions. David, thank you. Yes, the link is in the description, 50% off. And if you're coming in from my website, the enroll button is at the bottom of the page too as well. Beverly, no, there's not a time limit on the course. Once you get the course, you can have it forever, and you can access it however long you want. So there's no time limit on the course. Once you buy it, it's always yours. There's no like ending limit or amount of time. You can take as much time as you want to do it. So no, there is not a time limit on the course. All right, y'all. I think that's it. I think I've rambled on long enough. If you want to grab the course, that'd be awesome, and I really think you'll get something out of it. 50% off for the next 5 days, and thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and have a great weekend. Okay, thanks. Oh wait. Oh yes, Sam. Sorry. I haven't left yet. Sam just asked, I think you may have said that the course can be accessed via the Kajabi app. Yes. And I actually talk about that in the intro module. Kajabi is the platform I use, Kajabi. And if you get their app, your course, when you buy a course, you're creating a library for my courses, and you create a login login information, and then that's your library. So if you buy any courses from me, whatever courses you buy will go into that library. The Kajabi app, you can fill in your login information. You can do the course right on your phone or your iPad or whatever. It's really convenient that way. So yeah, you can use the Kajabi app. All right, y'all. Thanks, Firefly. I see you. Thanks, Beverly, and thanks everybody else for being here. I hope I didn't go too fast, and I hope you got something out of it. I really appreciate it. See ya.